Insanity is the definition of continuing conduct and expecting a different result. Everyone here knew that my client needed more treatment, and yet there was more of the same. Now, I'm not saying that my client is perfect. I'm not saying that my client essentially hasn't been difficult to deal with, but I don't think that that's a basis to revoke her parole.
We are about to watch a parole revocation hearing out of the state of Connecticut, and she is represented by the one and only attorney, Famigaletti, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I don't know how you feel about him, but I do think that he is one of the more competent defense attorneys that we have seen. With that, let's jump in.
No, thank you.
So you have important rights. I'm going to review that with you. Your right to have an attorney present. You have counsel here. You have a right to receive the written notice to charge the violation. Did you receive the written notice?
Yes.
You have a right to view the evidence against you before this hearing. You have a right to submit evidence to support your case. At this hearing, you have a right to call and examine voluntary witnesses and cross-examine adverse witnesses. Do you understand these rights, and are you ready to move forward?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you now review the charge the state your parole officer is bringing against you and the information underlying each charge. Pio Castillo, can you please read the charges?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you want me to read out the charges?
Yes, please.
Okay, and charge 1, halfway house placement. Do you want me to read all the details?
Yes, I want you to read everything you wrote for the charge.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Upon your release from your CI, you sign your special parole conditions indicating an additional stipulation of halfway house placement. You tested positive for marijuana on 5/20/23, 5/25/23, 6/1/23, 6/16/23, 8/24/23, 11/4/23, 11/16/23, and 11/17/23. At which you failed to follow through with the proper protocol for marijuana use. On 11/16/23, you lied to the halfway house staff indicating your transportation was your bail driver through bail service. This information was found to be inaccurate as the bail driver was transporting you outside of the bail service. On 12/29/23, you returned to the halfway house with unauthorized items, which were an indication that you went to the store without proper authorization from the halfway house. You refused to surrender the items and proceeded to your room with the unapproved items. On 1/2/24, you were standing outside of the halfway house on the telephone without authorization. When directed to enter the halfway house, you became argumentative and disrespectful, stating, quote unquote, "Are you fucking serious?" You entered the halfway house and continued your verbal aggression towards the staff. On 1/3/24, you were directed to leave the halfway house case manager's office after becoming verbally aggressive with the halfway house staff. On 1/19/24, upon arriving to the halfway house, you were directed to enter the building. Despite this direction, you lit your cigarette and disregarded the halfway house staff direction. You proceeded to smoke your cigarette and remain in front of the building until you finished smoking your cigarette. On 1/19/24, you were disrespectful to a halfway house staff member and utilized the derogatory statement, quote unquote, "What are you talking about, bitch? Are you serious?" Additionally, you ignored the direct order to provide another parolee with privacy while medication was being administered. On 1/21/24, you were instructed that the halfway house was on lockdown. Despite this, you disregarded and proceeded to go to the kitchen knowing this was not allowed. For a period of 15 minutes, you were told to return to your room and did not obey the staff directions. On 1/21/24, you demanded a cigarette break from the staff at the halfway house. When you did not receive authorization, you became verbally and aggressive towards the staff. On 1/21/24, you threatened another offender at the halfway house by making threatening statements such as, quote unquote, "Pick a time and place to fight." On 1/22/24, you engaged in a verbal altercation with 2 other parolees and threatened one of them at the halfway house. On 1/22/24, while in the community, you contacted the halfway house requesting authorization to stop at the store, to get cigarettes. The request was denied. Despite this and being on GPS monitoring, you went to the store and were, quote unquote, out of place. On 1/22/24, you were directed by staff several times to leave the front office. However, you refused to do so for about 18 minutes from 10:30 p.m. to 10:48 p.m. On 1/29/24, during a group meeting at the halfway house with the Women's Against Mass Incarceration, the WAMI program, you were disruptive and disrespectful, causing chaos between other parolees and calling the facilitator a quote-unquote fake-ass bitch. A few offenders were upset and walked out of the WAMI group. On 2/1/24, you demanded your medications before it was time to administer them to you. When denied the medications before the scheduled time, you became argumentative with the staff. On 2/1/24 at 7:27 p.m., while in the community, you were supposed to be picked up by the halfway house staff. Instead, you arrived in a black truck stating it was your quote-unquote bail transportation, but this was unable to be verified by the halfway house staff. On 2/2/24, you were out in the community demanding the halfway house staff follow your direction with regards to choosing your dispensary for the marijuana. You contacted the halfway house a significant amount of times, being argumentative and disrespectful towards the case manager and other staff at the halfway house. You were also instructed to return to the halfway house, which you did not until 2 hours after you were scheduled to have returned. On 2/6/24, you were engaged in a verbal altercation with the halfway house staff after demanding they transport you to an appointment. You were very disruptive and argumentative. On 2/7/24, while at the halfway house, you engaged in a verbal altercation with another offender when she asked for privacy at the medication window. On 2/9/24, you became upset at a staff member and were heard yelling in the hallway, quote unquote, Liz is a bitch and a stalker, repeatedly until you got into your room. On 2/21/24, you walked out of the halfway house without being signed out and yelled, quote unquote, bye. You were instructed to return to the halfway house to be properly signed out. You began to yell and scream, saying you had to, quote unquote, fucking leave. You continued your verbal aggression and intimidating behavior towards the halfway house staff. As a result, the halfway house staff contacted 911. Despite being instructed to wait for your pass, you left the halfway house without appropriate approval via a pass. The state police trooper Cardenas responded to the halfway house, but you had left the facility. On 3/22/23, you signed the special parole conditions, which included an additional stipulation of quote unquote mental health. Oh, we're going on to the second charge. My apologies.
No, it's okay.
Charge number 2 is mental health treatment. On 3/22/23, you signed a special parole condition, which included an additional stipulation of mental health treatment. Throughout your recent parole supervision, you led the halfway house staff to believe the app program was adjusting your mental health, which was misleading. On 1/31/24, the app foundation program reported medication management for psychotropic medications for buprenorphine treatment for opiate dependence. The app program recommended you attend individual weekly therapeutic sessions elsewhere.
Thank you. And the state filed the following exhibits that are pre-marked for identification purposes as signed, Exhibit A, signed statement of understanding and agreement, conditions of parole. B, halfway house agreement, women and children's halfway house. Exhibit C, Lucy Barney, Women and Children's Program Residential Handbook. D, halfway house incident report, positive for marijuana, 5/20/525/6123. E, halfway house incident report, positive marijuana, dated 5/25/23. F, halfway house incident report, positive for marijuana, 6/16/23. G, halfway house incident report, positive marijuana, 8/24/23. H, halfway house incident report, dated 11/4, 11/16, 11/17/23. I, halfway house incident report, misleading information by offender regarding transportation, 11/16/23. J, halfway house incident report, out of place, 12/29/23. K, halfway house incident report, argumentative, disrespectful, 1/2/24. L, halfway house incident report, verbal aggression to halfway house, 1/3/24. M, halfway house incident report, unwilling to follow staff directive. N is halfway house incident report, unwilling to follow staff directive. And O is halfway house incident report, demanding a cigarette break. P, halfway house incident report, threats towards another offender. Q, halfway house incident report, verbal altercations with other offenders at the halfway house, dated 1/22/24. R, halfway house incident report, out of place. S, halfway house incident report, causes group disruption, profanity towards group facilitator. T, halfway house incident report, verbal aggression towards staff. U, halfway house incident report, out of place. B, halfway house incident report, verbal aggression towards staff, out of place. W, halfway house incident report, verbal altercation with halfway house staff. X, halfway house incident report, verbal altercation with halfway house staff. Y, halfway house incident report, verbal aggression towards staff. Z, halfway house incident report, verbal aggression and intimidating behavior towards halfway house staff. State police contacted 2/21/24. Double A, letter from Career Resources, halfway house, requesting offenders removed from halfway house. 2/5/24. BB, GPS agreement dated 1/12/24. CC is state police troop report 9804. DD is Connecticut Board of Parole Remand and Custody Order 2/22/24. Double E is notice of parole violation. Double F is parole violation report. Double G, notice of parolee rights, and double H is apt program letter. Did you receive notice of parole violation report, and the other documents I marked, and did you review them?
Yes, yes.
Council shall have the following exhibit pre-marked for identification purposes as Defense Exhibit 1 treatment letter. Do you need to continue this hearing to obtain any additional evidence?
No, I do not.
Okay, we have no witnesses. So at this time, the state will have an opportunity to make a short statement and testify with respect to probable cause and severity of the allegations. I'm just going to swear in Pio Castillo as well as Ms. Morris in case you guys would like to speak today. So can you please both raise your right hand for me? You solemnly swear or solemnly sincerely affirm as the case may be, the evidence you shall give concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God, upon penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Mrs. Castillo, I do.
Yes, thank you. So right at this time, Pio Castillo would like to make any comments regarding anything. Would be your time to speak for this hearing.
Yeah, so this is not the first time that, the video is kind of delayed, am I correct?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Oh, okay. So this is not the first time that Bethany Morris has been violated. She has previously had top placement and had gone back on violation, has been remanded several times due to her behaviors and substance abuse issues. I'm not sure what needs to happen next. I definitely think she needs some consequences or some treatment or something to address these long-standing behaviors with her anger and mental health. We have placed her in all of the different halfway houses, and the behavior continues. During my supervision period, there was a time frame where we, Bethany Morris is very likable, but she has significant behavioral problems that have caused her not to succeed in all of these different settings, whether it be out in the community, which she has been in a sober house before, or whether it be in all of the halfway house placements. If her behavior is very disruptive to everyone in the halfway house, it's disruptive to the staff members. And she pretty much, in my experience in working with her, is very, very manipulative. We have talked, Bethany and I have talked significantly about these issues. She acknowledges these issues. Despite this, her behavior continues. I tried for the most part to work with her because she did have a baby in the halfway house, and we were trying to make her be successful in this setting. But the behavior continued, as indicated on all of these IRs. The misconduct that I'd issue her were later on because we were trying to, really put forth planning for her. How can we change these behaviors? How can we modify them? How can we make her successful? Tapping into her history, right? All of these behaviors she's shown in all the other halfway houses. We were unsuccessful to get her to a place where she can seize all these behaviors.
Thank you.
It's my turn now.
Yeah, it's now defense opportunity to respond and testify with respect to probable cause and severity of the allegations at this time, if you'd like to.
Yeah, I just have a few questions of the witness. Exhibit HH, I'd like to draw your attention to, Pio Castillo.
I'm hearing you. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna give you time to get to the exhibit.
Okay, give me a second. Let me,
Yeah, there's a lot of exhibits. Yeah,
yes,
HH.
HH, which is what exactly?
It's the App Foundation letter to you from Jessica Means and Catherine D'Angelo from the App Foundation on January 31st.
All right, just give me a second because I have to go into case notes to get that. because I don't have the packet in front of me, so. I know what the letter says, if you want to continue.
Okay, so just not looking at the letter because you don't have it in front of you yet. Another question is, as part of your recommendation, you made a recommendation that you thought that she might be better served in the mental health unit supervision, correct?
Correct.
And the letter itself that I'm referring to, the App Foundation letter, which is dated January 31st, and she was remanded on February 22nd, almost a month later. App Foundation does not provide individual therapy, but rather medication management and substance abuse counseling for the buprenorphine program. It is recommended at this time, which is consistent with what you said, that Ms. Moore seek out and engage in weekly individual therapy to focus on treatment for mental health, including current life stressors and PTSD. So my question to you is, was a psychiatrist appointment or mental health treatment set up for my client, knowing that all parties knew this is what she needed, because you just testified that she had significant behavioral problems and her behaviors over all of this time that you've known her has continued. Nothing has changed. So in order to have change, something has to be changed, which would be referring her to the mental health unit or referring her to mental health treatment. So my question is, between January 31st and the date of her remand, February 22nd, where were the appointments that were set up for her to go see a psychiatrist or begin mental health treatment?
Okay, without getting deep into the DCF involvement, I would just say that she has DCF involvement. There are specific steps. I have had meetings with DCF regarding her daughter. Okay.
I don't want to get into that, but what I would like to know is
I'm going there. You have to you can please give me an opportunity to go there.
Okay, sure. Sorry.
Because our big part of my work was collaborating with the community. And because she has DCF involvement, obviously we don't want to duplicate services, right? And we want these services to be very effective. I'm not going to just refer her to a program just because, right? So DCF has specific steps ordered in juvenile court that she has to follow through with in order to regain custody of her daughter. In these specific steps, it's outlined that she is to attend their mental health treatment and evaluation. They are in their process and have been in the process. She has a slew of services with DCF. They're in the process of referring her, and they actually have identified someone for her to see.
She had two appointments.
No, you go ahead.
In the midst of all of this, she was remanded. So they are working. I've had several meetings with DCF.
Okay. Yeah, I had known that she had appointments, and unfortunately, because she was remanded, she missed those appointments with the psychiatrist, correct? Or the workers? She had one on 2/21, and she had one on 2/28. And then she had 3 sessions at AIC that unfortunately got canceled. So with Amia Walker, I believe.
Right. So let's just say that it wasn't her doing. It was Morse's behavior that caused her to miss those appointments. I'm very confident that I've done everything I can to help her, and I have worked diligently with DCF to make sure that she gets the appropriate services. DCF was working on that, and Morse is very aware of that.
Right, but I'm just curious what parole did in terms of getting her, because it's my understanding that she was remanded on the 22nd, and so that's why she missed her appointment on the 28th.
Well, first of all, I didn't know about this appointment on the 28th, and when we remand, that's not taken into account. I mean, we had to remand her because of the significant issues with her behavior.
Okay.
So I think that's a question for you to pose to DCF.
Okay.
I answered your question as far as why she didn't get the treatment between that time frame.
Thank you. So
you're welcome.
I really appreciate it. I'm not attacking you. I called Sophie.
Not at all.
I called Sophie Hale of DCF. I called her and left a voicemail on 8/24, at 8/24 on 3/4, left a voicemail. She called me back and said, quote, "I don't have any information for her defense. We do not get involved in legal situations. End quote. So I have absolutely no way. They did not cooperate with me in any way, shape, or form as to find out what type of mental health treatment they were providing her or not. This has nothing to do with you, Officer Castillo. It's just I reached a brick wall, and I think that all parties are of the opinion that what my client needs is behavioral treatment and significant mental health supervision. So as to the charges that I want to address, thank you very much. I have no further questions. As to the charges that I wish to address, it's uncontroverted. I don't believe anyone denies the fact that my client had a marijuana card. And in fact, she states she gave it to Cynthia Sparks at the halfway house in July. There were 8 marijuana positive tests. And as to the preponderance standard, the first 4 were within 1 month. And there are no levels listed in any of the tests. So marijuana stays in your system for approximately 30 days. So all we can consider for 520, 525, 61, and 616 is one possible use because we have no levels. And she had a card. Second of all, there's an 824, which is beyond. So that would be allegedly a second use. And then from 11-4, 11-16, and 11-17, those are all within 30 days. So we're talking about 3 uses of marijuana. I think it's important to note that she was paroled on 4/5/23 and remanded on 2/22/24. Okay, so that's approximately 10 months. And if there are 30 days in a month, that's approximately 300 days of supervision. And if you look at the halfway house placement and you count the number of days where she had issues, there are 19 days. 19 days listed out of 300. Some of these happen multiple times a day. Some of these have to do with her wanting to use a cigarette. Some of these have to do with a term that I never really heard, which is verbally aggressive. Did she swear a number of times? That's what they're saying. Did she call someone a bitch? That's what they're saying. I'm going to go one by one. As to her lying about the bail service, there's no statement in Exhibit I that says that she lied. As to the 22923 brought unauthorized items from a store, no one saw her go to a store. It's a complete assumption, and she's telling us that DCF supplied her with those items. That would not be consistent with her going to a store. DCF provided her with those items. As to 1-2 use of a phone without permission and her giving an attitude, well, she was told that she could talk to her lawyer in private, and that's what she was doing. She was outside talking to her lawyer in private on the phone. As to the 1/3 quote unquote use of the term verbally aggressive with staff, there's no aggression. She went to an office and said, could you get out? She raised her voice. She said, could you get out to one of the parties in the office because she wanted to speak privately with the other party in the office. These are a number of violations listed over and over and over of a course of 300 days. These are 19 days. And I think it's very important to know that everyone has due process rights. Everyone has a right to be put on notice that they're doing something wrong to change their conduct. And what is the notice that a client is given that her conduct needs to be changed? Well, that would be a misconduct report. During the 300 days, if we look at the report under graduated interventions and sanctions, my client received 2 misconducts during 300 days. The gist of the argument is that my client has serious behavioral problems that they've known about for a long time. My client has serious behavioral problems and acts out that they've known for a long. There's no allegation of violence here. There's no allegations that she was violent towards anyone here. There's no absconding here. She may have been late, but there's no permanent absconding. She was always monitored at the halfway house. My client has been at various halfway houses. And my client has argued in a number of these because she was having cigarette bumps. They called the facilitator a fake ass bitch. And in the report, it says that she interrupted and was talking all about herself in a group treatment group. Well, what else is she supposed to do in a group treatment? She's supposed to talk about herself. She's supposed to talk about her problems. So if in fact what is necessary for my client, and it's consistent from the Foundation's referral, insanity is the definition of continuing conduct and expecting a different result. Everyone here knew that my client needed more treatment, and yet there was more of the same. Now, I'm not saying that my client is perfect. I'm not saying that my client essentially hasn't been difficult to deal with, but I don't think that that's a basis to revoke her parole. I think it's a basis to refer her to a mental health unit. I don't think any of these are sufficiently serious to incarcerate her. She's been incarcerated now since 2/24. We've known since January, and probably we should have known before, that what she needs is mental health supervision. I think she should be released. I think she should be referred to the mental health unit. I think she should continue with DCF with whatever she's doing at DCF, because no one was able to talk to me about it. I have a letter from the Boys and Girls Village that I'd like to read. Ms. Morse has participated in Circle of Security, I'll highlight it, parenting from January 19th to February 15th. Ms. Morse has consistently and actively participated in sessions and practiced concepts with me, the parent educator. She is introspective and reflective during sessions, sharing her parenting experiences and the lessons to be learned about becoming the best mother she can be. The client regularly takes accountability for past mistakes, which are being transformed into learning initiatives throughout her sessions. She has reflected on her strengths as a parent and remorse towards the needs that she was not meeting for her children. It is evident that Ms. Morse has done substantial inner work and is continuing to reflect and learn. My client's going to be monitored for a long time. I just don't think that because we need a change in application, there's been 2 misconducts. How is she to be put on notice that this was going to happen? There's been 2 misconducts. My client needs mental health supervision. I don't believe that we should go forward with a revocation hearing. I think she should be re-referred to the mental health unit. I don't believe it's sufficiently serious enough to go forward with a revocation. And I certainly don't think jail is appropriate for my client. Thank you for your time and consideration.
You can speak. You can speak before I make. If you'd like to say anything else.
Yes, please. So I know that I completely, hold on 1 second. Hold on. I'm so sorry for that. So I want to just, before you make a finding, so I know that the attorney, you say that there was only 2 misconduct issues for her, 2 misconduct reports, and I completely get that. However, I have tried diligently and I have put so much effort into helping Bethany Morse with her behavior, despite that she continued on. So I'll say that to that. The other part is that her behavior, I know that the marijuana use, you mentioned that. She notes that there was no marijuana card produced from what I see during the time when she was testing positive. We need to understand that it's a fact, it speaks to her compliance. The rules are the rules at the halfway house. She understands what they are. Marijuana cards, and it has to be in a pill format, and it has to be delivered to the halfway house. Despite that, she wanted to go ahead and come up with her own rules, test positive without producing and going through the proper channel. That's why I mentioned the marijuana use in there. And it affects all the other females in the house who are working on their sobriety. As far as her behaviors, I know you outlined each one of them. You were going through each one of them, and yes, if you take one, it may sound petty to the unknown, right? To the person who doesn't know, who hasn't observed Bethany. But when you put it all together, the disruptive behavior is very chaotic and it's not conducive for people in a halfway house who are trying to be in recovery, to try to, have their, transition into the community. It's very disrupting. I just wanted to make it a point before you make a finding. And coupled with the fact that this is not her first time around. I mean, we have seen this behavior in all of the different studies she's been on since she's been on supervision.
Thank you. You want to speak? You may this time if you'd like to.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate everyone here today. I just want to point out that I do realize that my actions or my attitude at certain points in the halfway house were not conducive, right? That doesn't mean I wasn't trying. I do want to say I do appreciate Officer Castillo, but I do want to say that, like, 1 second. Regarding the marijuana, I didn't sign those conditions until 11/20. Never was it in writing of how I was supposed to. I asked several times. I got my replacement card on June 9th. I went to Case Manager Sparks. I said, how are we supposed to do this? Yada, yada, yada. We've had several conversations about it, but never was it in writing. I signed on 11/20 that I was to follow protocol. You have that, where is it? 1 second. There was a new agreement of the halfway house signed on 11/20/23. That is when the marijuana protocol was to be introduced. Since then, have I had any dirty urines? No. I signed them and I respected them. I understand what they're saying. When I lost my daughter on the 6th of December, you can see my behavior went upticked. I'm not saying that I don't deserve any consequence. What I'm saying is jail is not the answer. I've been here for almost a month. I see what I need. Effective communication, psychoanalytic groups, psychoeducational support, skill building, major development, reoccurring. I had a TBI in 2016. Never did I have DBT. I know I need more mental health treatment, but jail is not going to give me that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Nothing further.
Thank you. All right. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to out to my findings, taking into account testimony and evidence that was presented. I am going to go through the violation and I go by dates. So I make a finding of probable cause on charge 1, halfway house placement. I'm going to go through these dates to make this clear what I make findings on, what I do not. On parts of marijuana, test positive marijuana, I make a no finding on all of that. On 11/16/23, I make a finding. On 12/29/23, I do not make a finding on that date. I make a finding on 1/2/24, 1/3/24, 1/19/24 on the second part. On the first part, on 1/19/24, I do not make a finding. On 1/21/24, I do not make a finding on that date on the first part. On 1/21/24, the other 2 parts, I do make a finding. I make a finding on 1/22/24 on the first 2 parts of that. I do not make a finding on the 1/22/24 on the third date part. I make a finding on 1/29/24. I do not make a finding on the first part of 2/1/24 regarding medication. On 2/1/24, the second part, I do make a finding on that. I make a finding also on 2/2/24, 2/6/24, 2/7, 2/9, and 2/21/24. This is based on exhibits I have received: IKNMOPQRSUB, WWXYZ, and CC for those dates that I have listed. On charge 2 condition, additional condition mental health treatment, I make a no finding probable cause based on that charge not meeting the elements. As the offender was not given information for treatment participation and did not fail to participate in the treatment as there was no instruction to participate in mental health treatment. That was noted in any of the evidence. So, and it is noted the offender is taking medication. I do find the acts of serious enough to warrant revocation. I determine you should be detained while you wait for revocation hearing. I'm going to bring you back very shortly and we're going to determine if there's a violation or not. So I will see you very soon, because you have a technical violation. So I will schedule you soon to bring you back.
Thank you so much.
And then I'll talk to you then and we'll address those, dates that I have listed.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Officer Gladu? I'm all set.
Okay, so let's unpack that. One is I'm pretty sure that what it is that they found the violation, but now they're going to bring her back to determine how much time she's going to get, and that may happen in the next week or so. And if so, and if it's maybe I'll send an update video for this. But you know, her attorney, we have seen him represent the worst kind of cockroaches, and when he does that, I really just despise him. But I think I got to give him credit where it's due, and he's good in my opinion. I mean, he's thorough. He makes the right points. He puts up good arguments. And I just wonder what they're paying for a public defender to help with these cases, and why has he not found a career as a prosecutor? We could use him on I know what I'll say, the right side of the bench, but I think everyone deserves proper representation. I don't want to take that away from him, but it's at the same time, seeing him represent the worst of the worst makes it hard for me to forget that. But in this case, I actually do think that this woman does need mental health. I'm not justifying anything that she's doing. I feel for the parole board for the parole officer who came up and spoke, and you know, everything that she's talking about with the halfway house and how this person is a huge disturbance to the halfway house. Man, the way the attorney broke it down into tiny little bits by saying there's only two reports, and for each of the medical marijuana, you know, even though it's not that, but it stays in your system for a month. And then if you break it down to each one, it's like, well, she smoked a cigarette. And it's like, are you really going to send her back to prison? But now I look at her reports that Richard sent, and it seems to be a history of some serious, you know, narcotic problems, but also kind of like, you know, I'll read some of the reports, but she's like that crazy woman that you see running around in the street, and you call the cops, and it's like report after report after report of her doing things like that. So let me read a few of them to you. And I'll just read it from the notes, because they have dates and stuff, so I don't like to screen share it. So she has one on 1/16/2015, engage police in pursuit, 1 year jail, execution suspended sentence. Okay, so that's not good. Then she was revoked in 2/28/18, 5 months jail sentence. Then she has reckless endangerment, 2nd degree, 6 months jail, execution suspended probation, 18 months. She was revoked. She has Mohegan Tribal Police, arrested 1/19/16 for cannabis, sentenced 1 year jail. She had half an ounce of marijuana, which is legal now. She got a year in jail, but it was a suspended sentence, probation 2 years. Of course, she violated. Then she got 90 days in jail for violating or something. She has burglary, 2nd degree, 30 months jail, 90 months special parole. I mean, the system with her, she just keeps getting in and out, criminal mischief. But so let me read to you the actual. So on September 26, 2014, a city woman was arrested for endangering her young child. Now, this is, you know, when you hear endangering a child, all the worst comes to mind. What she did was bad, but it wasn't is far cry from it's on the bottom of the threshold. Let's put it that way. So after she admitted to smoking marijuana while holding her naked baby, that's what, basically, I'll just read the details. So on September 25th at 11 a.m., police were called to home on Carriage Crossing about domestic complaints. They found Bethany Morse, 24, at Carriage Crossing, holding her 9-month-old son, who was unclothed, according to the report. Her husband, the report indicated, had left the area. The home smelled of marijuana, and a search turned up 0.6 grams. That's it, 0.6. Not even a gram of pot in the bathroom, which was full of smoke with burnt ashes in the sink. Morse allegedly told officers a little weed never hurt anyone, and admitted to smoking it while having the baby with her the entire time. Officers reported the child didn't even have on a diaper. She was charged with the risk of injury to the child, the second-degree failure to appear, and outstanding warrants. Now, I'll tell you that if I'm an attorney here, I'd be like, wait, she has her baby with her. She's inside. The 0.6 gram of pot was found in the bathroom, which means that she has the wherewithal to smoke in the bathroom to keep the smoke away from her child. And whether the baby's naked or not in the house is that can't be considered, it's in your house. Maybe the baby, you're airing the baby out. Maybe you're I could flip that thing on its head so quickly. I have a brother who's basically a hippie, and he would do all those things, and he would never come across, and his wife would never come across as someone who would neglect their children. So a woman who reportedly told police that this is another report, 2015, so for that to be as neglect of a child, I'm not cool with that. Let's put it that way. But at the same time, if you look at her track record, so a woman who reportedly told police a little weed would never hurt anyone after smoking while holding her 9-month-old infant appeared again in court Monday. And again, that's not necessarily true. It seems that she went to the bathroom and smoked, and then when the cops come, she picked up her infant. But after initial incident, Bethany, 25, entered the courtroom from lockup on April 20th, the unofficial marijuana smoking holiday known as 420 or Weed Day. According to an arrest warrant, police responded to a call of domestic disturbance and found a burning marijuana joint in her bathroom. She was holding her naked infant at the time. Morse was charged with the risk of injury to the child. So this is just a continuation. You ask me, that I'm not cool with those charges. I'm straight up not. So it's like you're going to take a mom away from her baby and lock her up based off of what? Okay. And what's funny now is they can't even, now pot's legal, so they couldn't even make those charges. It's, I'm sorry, but that's disturbing to me. That really is. Anyways, Morse is also going through court proceedings for a shoplifting charge from March 14th, with 4 additional failure to appear charges, according to the state judicial website. Morse also cases in Manchester and away through court for first-degree reckless endangerment in January 16th. I mean, I don't know. I don't really see. To me, it seems like, yeah, she has other things where here's one. Police say a woman either intoxicated or suffering medical issue allegedly broke into an apartment and vehicle in the early mornings, starting residents. About an hour after responding to their first series of calls about the woman just before 1 a.m., police arrested the suspect walking on Route 1. They matched the descriptions, and they charged her to 5 felony counts of breaking in, 5 felony counts, and disturbing the peace and disorderly conduct. No one was injured in the bizarre incidents, but police say that people who encountered the woman were startled by her behavior. Some witnesses told police she was crying and asking for help, and others said she was either drunk or suffering a medical issue. And that's what I was referring to when it's like that classic person you see and you're like, oh man. I don't know. From everything what I've seen, it seems like she needs medical help as well. And I don't see any crazy serious charges. But with all of this special parole stuff, she probably is going to spend all her time in prison. But I agree with her attorney. I think she needs medical help. I don't think prison is for her. And that's my perspective. Really, it is. I don't think she should be in a halfway house. I agree with her that I agree that she's just wrecking it for everyone. But I don't think she should be in prison either. I don't know what the answer is. Proper, medication might help. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Anyways, Richard, I hope you are okay. It's been now a day since your surgery. Haven't heard from you. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. And for those of you who are not aware, got another channel in Mandoo 1 and cover Louisiana hearings. Got over 1,000 hearings there, so please do check it out. If you haven't heard about it, I think you'll enjoy it. And with that,